Feeling like a shark in a shrimp tank. Big fish, small pond in the shrimp tank.
Hey Shrimp Tank family, welcome to our post-show wrap-up video here on the Central Pennsylvania Shrimp Tank. I'm your host, Nathan Imboden, alongside our wonderful host, Joy Daniels, who is the broker-owner of the Joy Daniels Real Estate Group right here in Central Pennsylvania. We just got done filming our full broadcast, which, when we publish it in about a week, you can find it on our website at shrimptankpodcast.com/CentralPA. Also, if you're tuning in live and this is the first time you've seen us, please be sure to go to this Facebook page or Instagram, find us, the Central PA Shrimp Tank, click that like and follow button so you can stay up to date on all these interviews. Also, if you like what we're doing, help us out, help our guests out, click that share button, share it to your friends, family, let everybody know what we're doing and the stories we get to tell here on our show. And we're titling this Building a Real Estate Empire because legitimately that is exactly what Joy and her team has done. And, you know, I'm probably not as qualified to talk about that as you are. So welcome to the show. Why don't you introduce yourself quickly to our viewers?
Thank you. Yes, I am Joy Daniels with Joy Daniels Real Estate Group, and I'm very excited to be here today, so thank you.
Thank you.
We have started Joy Daniels Real Estate Group 12 years ago. We're in our 12th year. We started in 2010. So
when?
April Fool's Day, April 1st. Yeah, it was pretty exciting because I had a lot of people give me a hard time and say, "You're crazy.
Yeah.
You matched the day." Okay, yeah. Let's see. Let's see what happens. That's right. The joke's on them. Yeah. That's good.
Yeah. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your operation and I guess really what makes you different? Because we talked on the show about your forward-thinking idea about creating teams within a real estate practice and why that's better. So why don't you talk about that a little bit?
Yes, we started Joy Daniels Real Estate Group. We wanted to create a culture of kindness. We wanted to create a culture of just servant leadership. And we were able to find wonderful people, people who had the same goals. So a whole bunch of us got together and we had one goal. And together as a group, we were able to provide some really distinct real estate services to people who were needing a real estate agent because they were buying a home or selling a home.
Yeah.
And so as a team, there are people that assist the real estate agents in specializing with what they do best. So we have agents that specialize in working with buyers. And so everything they do is just going to be directed to buying a home. How does that buyer win? What does that buyer need to do? And it changes all the time. 5 years ago, what a buyer needed to do to win was a little bit different than it is now in this crazy market.
Just a little bit.
So we can talk about that.
Yeah.
But then we also have agents that specialize in working with sellers. So they're listing specialists. Everything they do allows them to focus on that seller, help that seller in preparing to get their house ready to sell, help that seller with pricing, and educating that seller on what they need to do to get that home sold. And so we felt that being a specialist was the way to go with real estate. If you're sick and you have a heart problem, you're going to go to a heart specialist. If you have a foot problem, you're going to go to a foot specialist.
Yeah.
So we wanted to be that real estate specialist.
Yeah. Well, you're right that buying and selling homes are two very different transactions that require a very different skill set. And most people naturally can understand the idea of, oh yeah, well, why wouldn't I want somebody who understands that best to represent me in this process?
Right.
Yeah. So just talk a little bit about what drove you to change that. You know, you were on the full show. You talked about how you started in real estate, and then you were you were stay at home. Well, not totally stay at home. You were homeschooling kids, and also selling real estate while you were doing that, and then in 2010 started and launched the Joy Daniels Real Estate Group. But
well, my husband was recognizing that I needed some help in order not to be working 80 hours a week. Because that's what can happen, trust me.
Right.
Real estate is a very it's very time consuming.
Yeah.
And so we started doing masterminding with other top agents outside of our area and learning what they did that set them apart and made them different. And so that's how we learned about the specialists, with buyer specialists and seller specialists. One of the things when we left the company where I was working before that my husband said to me was, what didn't you like? What was, if you could change one thing about your last 19 years in real estate, what would it have been? And the first thing out of my mouth was, I don't want to work for both the buyer and the seller at the same time. I didn't see how that could be 100% beneficial to both parties. And so with doing the research that we did, we found some ways to go about that.
Yeah, awesome. And you already talked a little bit about why it's important, if you're looking to buy a house, to have a buying specialist, or if you're looking to sell, have a listing specialist. But you want to touch on that a little bit more about maybe why specifically either one of those are better suited to handle those separate transactions?
Well, if you're a seller specialist, you're going to be able to help a seller sell probably one of the biggest investments in their life, their home. And so you're going to be able to help them because you've had the experience, and that's all you're doing. If all you're doing is focusing on selling, you're going to have that experience to help that seller prepare their home so that when a buyer comes through for a showing, that buyer doesn't have any negative thoughts about the home. When they walk through, everything's positive. So you, as the listing agent, are good at learning how to make that happen.
Yeah.
You can direct the seller and what they need to do. You are, if that's what you're doing, your verbiage, your wording for your remarks, for your advertising, for your marketing, can all be, you've got a lot of experience. You can put a good package together.
Yeah. I think back with what you just said to experience when my wife and I were looking for our home prior to buying this one. We had went into a home, and on the surface it was something I thought was something I would enjoy, but there had to be 1,000 pictures of that family that currently lived there in that house. And for me, that was a huge deal because I thought, well, I can't see myself here because it's littered with pictures of the person who currently lives here, and that was, for whatever reason, that was a mental roadblock for me. And I don't know if that's some,
well, that is definitely one of the things that we suggest to sellers, to remove personal pictures.
Yeah.
One of the biggest reasons is because as a buyer, when you're walking into the home, if they have a whole staircase full of pictures walking up their stairs, you as the buyer, when you're walking in, you first walked in the door and you're thinking, oh my gosh, I'm going to buy a house. This is going to be it. I'm so excited. And then you walk in and you see all those pictures, and instantly your brain stops thinking about the house for you as the buyer, and you start thinking about that seller. How do I know them? Do I know their kids? I wonder where they work. I wonder where they go to school. I wonder, you have this whole fantasy about the seller when you're a buyer. And so taking those pictures down takes away a distraction. And that's the goal as the listing agent, is helping the seller recognize what things should be removed so those distractions don't come up when the buyer's walking through the house. Yeah,
because my goal as a buyer going in should purely be, I need to see myself in this house.
Does the home work for you? Because just like it's the seller's, biggest lifetime investment that they're selling, it's going to be you as a buyer. You're buying the biggest investment of your life for a while. And so our buyer specialists then help the buyers in this current market know how to win, how to win that bid.
Especially right now when
it's crazy right now. And like I said, it's changed. 5 years ago, what a buyer had to do to win was totally different than what a buyer has to do now. They have to have their finances in order. They have to have a lot of buyers are actually getting their pre-approval in place, and even a step up from that, they have to do higher deposits. They have to maybe watch with their inspections what they're doing. They have to do escalation letters saying that they'll pay more than the asking price if there's other bids that come in that are higher. So there's a lot of things that come into play, and then having an agent that specializes in that type of thing to help you is what you need.
So we touched on buying, but on the show you gave a couple tips for sellers that you should be thinking about right now if you happen to be one of the individuals that is, inventory is historically low right now. But if you are somebody that is looking to sell, you had a couple great tips for those individuals that I feel comfortable sharing them now.
Well, one of the things that I like to say to sellers are simple things like removing your pictures, but you want to remove your window screens. Put them in the basement, put them in the garage. House shows so much brighter and cleaner when the windows don't have screens blocking out that natural light.
If you look around, you'd see I took most of my window screens out, especially the ones that we don't open. Obviously, if we want to open them, we're going to do that.
Well, when the buyer buys a house, they can put the screens back in.
That's true.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The other thing that I suggest to my sellers is you don't want to have any bright, colorful things in the pictures because the camera eye sees things differently than the human eye. So the buyers are online looking for a home, and they have to put a minimum price and a maximum price. They only get sent to them the homes that are in that category. And so you got to be careful when you're a seller how you price your house. 9.9 pricing kind of went out with the internet.
Okay.
Okay, when I started in real estate, there were no computers.
Yeah.
There was no internet. Nothing. Everything was in a book, a black and white book, which we were not allowed to share with our buyers or sellers. It was a little crazy.
Yeah.
But we priced our houses in 9.9s.
Okay.
Now we want whole numbers because the internet has changed how people search. Whether you're using Zillow or Troya or Realtor.com or JoyDaniels.com. It doesn't matter. You have to pick a starting place and an ending place. And there's a drop-down menu, and they're in increments typically of 10,000.
Right.
So people are going to search maybe from 3 to 350 or 350 to 4. And if you're at 349.9, you're going to miss that 350 to 4 group.
Right.
And as a seller, you want to be in as many potential categories for buyers to find you as possible.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's an important thing for sellers is to just use a whole number for a price.
That's great. Awesome. Hey, everybody at home, if you just saw that, share this video. A couple great tips, especially to push the message out if you know people that are looking to sell as well. And if you're looking for a place to actually represent your sale, Joy Daniels would be a great
Call
place
us
to
at
start.
Joy Daniels Real Estate Group.
Yeah. All right. So for people that have tuned in, and I made this joke, but I'm going to duplicate it. If for some reason you say, Joy, who? I have Danielle. I don't know what that name is. And they want to find out more about your company, what services you can offer, and more about your team. What's the best way for them to do that?
We have an awesome website. So you can check it out at joydaniels.com.
Cool.
Or if you like email, you can email info@joydaniels.com or give us a call at 717-695-3177. And we will definitely answer your questions and help you out.
And our Joy, our producer Joy, will make sure all that information is in with our show notes here so that everybody has access to that is viewing it. So, Joy, thank you so much for coming on the show. Thank you for giving us all this information earlier. It's been a blast. I hope you enjoyed the time as much as I did. Everybody at home, again, great tips that we just shared. And if you want more really cool information about Joy's backstory and Chris's backstory about how they started this and grew it to what an empire it is right now, go to our website, shrimptankpodcast.com/CentralPA to hear the full episode. Thanks again, Joy.
Thank you.
And, I'm sorry, were you going to?
No.
Okay, perfect. I didn't want to cut you off if you had anything else to say. So everybody at home, thanks. We'll see you on another episode of the Central PA Shrimp Tank.
I've been feeling like a shark in a shrimp tank. Big fish, small pond in the shrimp tank.